Here's an example of how Overledger is installed into an airline loyalty program. This is cool because you know what? Sometimes you guys don't like me talking about the same thing all the time. Oh, Max is just going to talk about interoperability. You're going to talk about ISO TC307. He's going to talk about SATP. He's going to talk about the Internet Engineering Task Force. He's just going to talk about the same things, or he's going to show me a beautiful trailer of Quant Overledger with this James Bond, sounding lady, and that's all he's got. That's all he's got. I'm out of here. I'm not to subscribe from his show. He does all these stupid impersonations. He tells me I'm a bum and I need to go back to Jersey. Yeah, that's right. Go back to Jersey, you bum. Yeah, so let's get into this. Let's play this. This is cool. Let's have some fun with this example real quick. Smash that like for some QNT. Here we go.
You could do it with other coins as well. And this is the exchange that's being facilitated by the Quant networks. And we're going to see that part of the demo as well. The way that exchange works, it's using something called hash time locked atomic swaps, which if you're not familiar with, I'll briefly explain. So we have essentially two entities here. We have the traveler and we have the airline. The traveler will generate a secret. You can think about it as a one-time password maybe. They're going to actually do an escrow transfer to log the the fiat or the current Oracle blockchain tokens and on an escrow account, and then they will send the hash of that to an Ethereum smart contract that's provided here as an escrow. The airline will lock the ERC20 on Ethereum, and then when the flight traveler claims it in step 5, they're going to actually provide that secret, right, in order to unlock the escrow. At that point, they have in their account on Ethereum some amount of coins. The airline manager can retrieve that secret, and then using that, they can claim the tokens on OBP network. And so you're going to see this exchange. This is a very classic hash time lock mechanism that's used for a lot of atomic swaps and can be used with other kind of networks. And what you're going to see is a Quant network Overledger gateway being used. It provides a front end to be able to interact with multiple types of blockchain, different ledgers, right? So they support a great number of them, not just Ethereum, but Corda and Quorum and Ripple and Stellar and so on. And they can support a number of different orchestration scenarios. We're going to do this cross-DLT asset ownership swap that you'll go to see in a demo. But you can also do things like dual logging, where you can forming, for example, a transaction Oracle blockchain on a public network by putting a hash. Maybe more complex orchestrations where you have some kind of a business process with purchase order invoice matching that's being done on Oracle blockchain, and then there is maybe a payment or settlement on another network, right? So there's all of the different orchestrations that are possible through the REST APIs that they provide. All right.
That was a great example. We talked about some of these things. Quant Papa pointed out some of these things, like, some of the DMs that you sent me and so on, and even what we share with you guys and so on. We gave that example of Ripple's XRP in the past, but you saw some of these other visuals here on this explanation. It's nice to actually see like an actual diagram of how it all works out, right? So he mentioned R3, this guy. Let's jump into this for a bit, because you know what? I want to share this with you. And this is the part that Quant Papa has for us. He retweeted us, and then, of course, he has his own little thing as well. Let's jump into that. This is cool because, I mean, this is a nice little segue to the R3 part of things. I'll come back in the frame on this one just for a brief bit. So on this one, it says, how important, and you got to keep in mind, this is straight from R3, right? This is not just like, me going to type, $QNT, hashtag QNT, right? This literally comes straight from R3. So it says, how important is building a, quote, network of networks, and how can we get there while functioning in highly regulated markets? This guy, who is, I believe, Gendel, says Richard Gendel Brown. He's the CTO over at R3. He defines and explores the importance of interoperability in this mission. And this is only 21 seconds. Then we'll show you guys the Quant Papa segment of it. But yeah, listen to this, all right? This is pretty cool. Smash that like. Here we go.
what we begin to see is the emergence of these networks of networks, these openly connected networks working together to solve an end-to-end business problem without, and this is the important point, without them all having to be deployed on the same network with the same rules on the same technology, because in the regulated sphere, that just isn't feasible.
Right, isn't feasible, right? If anything, I mean, what's the point of trying to make things frictionless, or counterproductive, right? You got to have something that is, let's face it, feasible. So I'm going to jump to this next part. So it says from Gilbert Verdin, definitely said it in November 2022. Twitter, now X, will be payments system. I know that, this is not necessarily the R3 side of things, but I want to share this with you. Andrew Carrier, right? Originally, I guess has been cited here. Hopefully you guys know about Andrew Carrier. All right, so he says, definitely said it back in November 2022. Twitter will now be a payment system. I want you guys to pay attention to this. It says, at Elon Musk tried it in the 90s with X.com. We did that little thing about this about a week ago. It was like, I guess you could say, kind of like a little bit of a continuation. That later became PayPal. But the market wasn't mature enough then. Now he's inherited 370 million customers on Twitter who can soon transact globally. And this is a reference back to, for instance, Andrew Carrier. So we show you this for a second. And I'm glad that they, took the time to cite some of this. So it says trends for 2023. Again, a blast from the past. Ultimately, we're entering a hyper-connected world, says Gilbert Verdin, and you heard it here first. This is the key thing. One example of that trend is that Elon Musk's Twitter will become a payment system. And I do remember this because this is where so many people had that, speculative debate. Some people were saying, well, especially from the DOGE, the DOGE army and so on, they're going to use Dogecoin. And some people are like, no, they're not going to use Dogecoin. It's not fast enough. That's not going to, Elon Musk is too smart to use Dogecoin. Some other people said, well, then, it's going to be Ripple's XRP. So, people even, were speculating and say, well, it's probably Stellar. Well, is it like literally the X's? This is, again, part of that speculation. Well, if anything, let's play this. You make your own decision on where you feel as though we're going with this. And I'm glad that they are citing some of these things. So this one's 1 minute and 18 seconds. We'll get into a little bit more of what we have. But this is all interesting because you know what? Everybody's recognizing what's happened to Twitter. I guess eventually it won't even be called Twitter. You can't retweet. You can, but it's not called a retweet. It's called a repost. You don't tweet on Twitter. You post on X or Twitter, right? So, when we talk about the whole concept of like legacy systems, if you think about it, right? Technically, this is an example, right? Here we go. Let's smash that like. Let's play this.
Very good question. I think where we're heading is a new way where society can interconnect, because we're as humans, we're very social, and it's all about our networks and connections with people. And I think that can be very easily overlaid into new types of transactions or financial services that leverage that network connectivity, the human side. So I think where we're seeing things evolving is that mass explosion of new types of digital assets, new types of money, and the new types of human-to-human transactions or business-to-business transactions. If you look at what's happening, just an example with Twitter, my view is that's going to be a payment system. It's undergoing a lot of turmoil right now, and we all know why. And but I think that's kind of the start of a new human-to-human ways to do payments using an existing platform like Twitter. So having that connected to bank systems, to central bank digital currency systems, P2P systems, we're going to have a new type of world. It's very hyper connected. So I think 23 is the start of that.
Yes, a hyper connected future.
Jeez, he basically called it before anybody else did. That's at least my opinion. Going to share a little bit more about this, obviously, with you guys. Let me just hit the back button. Yeah, let's get into this next part. a little bit more cited from obviously Gilbert Verdi. And this is some good stuff, especially if you're in the QNT. You want to know something? Even if you're not a holder of Quant, just like some of the explanations of like, yeah, you know what? Elon Musk obviously had a plan long before everybody else. He just didn't come out and spill the beans about it all at once, you know? But I'm glad that Gilbert Verdian saw this long before everybody else. So let's pull this up. Here it is. Come back into the frame for just a brief moment. And it says a detailed view of the size, scale, and reach of Apple in financial services. Let me check the time real quick. Yeah, it's going to be WrestleMania. It's a Friday night. A little bit of WrestleMania. It's okay. I love being with you guys. Smash that like, especially if you love CTN and the coverage that we bring you guys. Welcome to WrestleMania. All right, let's get back to the topic of QNT and this whole outline that we have for you. So he says, detailed view of the size, scale, and reach of Apple in financial services. In 4 months, Apple collected $10 billion in deposits, scaling to the size of a challenger bank. My God. Here's the link, the source, if you want to view it. Incumbent are threatened by big tech entrance basically into the market. And again, on the chopped up version of this later, if you see me grimacing, you know why. Credit is from Linus Belwinus. I'm not pronouncing that right. But anyway, Apple, yes, like it says, is the biggest fintech in the world. Apple Finance Empire, unbundling the bank. Look at what's mentioned here. Maybe on this one, I'll blow it up just a tad bit more to show you some of the key findings here. Let's see. All right, share this tab instead. Maybe it's just a little bit bigger. I think it is. Yeah, this is good. So it goes on to mention some of these things when you unbundle the bank, the finance empire. Look at this. Financial product, obviously Apple Pay. Connected with what financial institution partner, guys? Chase, Wells Fargo, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. What about Apple Cash, Green Dot Bank? Look at how Goldman Sachs stands out here. We talk about that institutional money. Think about this for a second. Look how many times do you see Goldman Sachs listed here for both Apple Card, Apple Pay Later, and the savings account. All three of those. How about some of the technology and fintech partners? Core Card, Credit Kudos. What about the financial product of Tap to Pay, CTBC Bank of Taiwan? You have on the technology and fintech partners, you have GoDaddy. Oh my God, I never forget going down to that main office one time. They didn't never believe I was going to go down there. Anyway, that's off the wall. Sorry. But yeah, you see GoDaddy, Clover. It says Apple is basically leading in embedded finance. And as you can see, again, Goldman Sachs reference in regards to Apple savings. Apple Tap to Pay, Mobi Wave. But look what's referenced here. EF 3.0, build in-house. Green Dot Bank with Apple Cash to co-create. They have a whole breakdown of all this, right? Very, very impressive. On the right side, lower right side, it's kind of hard to see it. So I'm not going to be able to blow it up more if I do, because this is a screenshot. It's going to be too smudged. But it's glad to show you guys that. On the next part I'm going to get into, let me see if I can pull this up for a second. Oh, yes, I know where we're at. I want to show you guys this. It's back to the topic of Apple. So it said for the second thought, Apple was issuing the Apple dollar. Again, back to the whole concept of like payments and so on. So he says, you know, as in Gilbert Vernon, he wouldn't be surprised if big tech entering the banking market this way. You already technically saw, I gave you some examples of that, right? Tokenized commercial money native to the platform wallets. For instance, not just, you know, strictly on iPhone, but even on Android. And enable for billions of their customers to transact instantly who have their devices. You have this, what's referenced from Pixar, Adobe, Apple, Autodesk, and even NVIDIA. Of course, who formed an alliance for OpenUSD. How long ago was that? Let me just see real quick, because I didn't have a chance to pull that up. That was actually the other day. Sorry about that. So let me pull this up for a second. I just thought it was just a regular reference. Yeah, you see it right here. It says Pixar, Adobe, Apple, Autodesk, and NVIDIA form alliance for OpenUSD to drive open standards for 3D content. It goes down to mention some of these key things. The alliance seeks to standardize the 3D ecosystem by advancing the capabilities of open universal scene description, promoting greater interoperability. I mean, think about that for a second, but the standardization, you know where we're going with this. And then on top of interoperability of 3D tools and data, the alliance will enable developers and content creators to describe, compose, and simulate large-scale 3D projects and build an ever-widening range of 3D-enabled products and services. Also talks about the whole idea of alliance will develop written specifications detailing features of OpenUSD. It goes on to also mention this reference right here. This is also going to provide a path to recognition through the International Organization of Standardization, ISO. Do you really think I was going to provide you guys just nothing but a nothing burger? No. But the point is standardization, ISO. What is Quant basically, you know, when it comes to ISO TC 307? So yes, add another one that you can, you know, apply to the notch in the belt. That's why Gilbert Verdin is referencing this. I'll get to all this stuff. You can nerd it out more, right? That's very, very cool. Very, very cool. How about this? AOUSD steering committee members will be speaking both at the Academy Software Foundation's open source days on August 6th. I mean, I don't know if it's going to happen. You never know. Maybe Gilbert Verdin might show up virtually, or maybe you show them in person. I don't know. But whatever the case be, talking about being well connected and setting down the standards. And it literally references. I'm going to show it one more time just in case you missed it. ISO on that particular standard. Yeah, that's cool. That's very cool. All right, I'm going to jump back to this again. Gilbert Verdin talks about some of this. And again, why would Gilbert Verdin post anything if it wasn't valid, all right, or worthy of a mention? So seriously, and this is who he's referencing. This guy who goes by Flow, innovation of intrapreneurship. That's a weird way of pronouncing it. Interest in blockchain, BTC, and more assets, projects, and ecosystems. So seriously, 2 replies to state the same thing. Obviously, it's a 3D data format. I can read the article. Ooh. Is Quant's Gilbert Verdin have a little bit of a back and forth with a BTC maxi bigwig? You know, we see some of this stuff happening lately, do we not? We saw the whole back and forth of, I hate to say it, I mean, I'm invested in both. I don't like tribalism, but, you know, you see some of this, you know, some of the bigwigs have some of this tribalism, some of these, you know, arguments. So we saw, yeah, David Schwartz and we reported, I think it was last Friday, if I'm not mistaken, David Schwartz and the whole thing with Craig Wright, right? What about this? Gilbert Verdin, this guy? It says, so Gilbert goes on to mention, he says, obviously it's in a 3D data format. I can read the article, kind of missing the point of big tech entering financial services markets with payments. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Amazon Pay, PayPal, Apple Card, etc., has been one of the threats to banking and financial services incumbents. Watching big tech closely for many years, it's a matter of when, not if, they have the scale and reach to do this. And here's what he's referencing in this little tiff that they have. This guy, who goes by Flow, it says AOUSD has nothing to do with money. It's a standard for interoperability of 3D content through OpenUSD universal scene description. Standardizing the 3D ecosystem will enable developers and content creators, like I mentioned earlier, to describe, compose, and simulate large-scale 3D projects. Again, I think Gilbert Verdin just basically owned him on this. But if you're wondering, like, well, how so? Can you pound it home that much more? And it's this part right here. He highlights it. He says, the Alliance for OpenUSD, an open source nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting the, and here's the highlight, interoperability of 3D content through OpenUSD, universal scene description, standardizing. Again, this is why I point out some of the stuff earlier without even highlighting it. The 3D ecosystem will enable developers and content creators to describe, compose, and simulate large scale. We already said it all, right? Widening a 3D range of services and so on. And again, they just kind of have their back and forth, but this guy says, yes, sorry, that is why I wrote that and deleted my post. Translation mistake. And then they made up for it. So I guess that's kind of cool. I mean, it is what it is. But anyway, you can say what you want. Gilbert Verdian wasn't going to just let this guy, whether the guy translated or not, get away with it.